I thought that a decade of constant travel would change how I see the world. What I didn't expect is how much it would change the way I see myself. This is the psychology of living nowhere. When you live without a home base for more than a decade, there comes a time when the experience stops being about travel and starts being about something else entirely. Movement becomes your rhythm. Change becomes your constant. And the questions people ask begin to reveal how differently your life is structured. Most people can answer, "Where do you live?" without hesitating. For me, that question opens a door to a life built without a fixed place to return to. Not in a dramatic way, and not in a detached way, but in a very human way. It made me realize how much our identities are tied to geography, even when we don't notice it. Living nowhere became living everywhere, and that shift reshaped the way I think about identity, memory, relationships, and home. This video is not about travel tips or logistics. It's an exploration about what happens when you take away one thing that most of us build our lives around, a home base. If you're curious about the psychology of living without a home, this is my story. It's also an invitation for you to reflect about how place, pace, and movement affect your own life. One of the first things you lose is the ability to answer simple questions. The answer to "where do you live?" used to be a word or two, but now the answer depends on who's asking. A friend, a border agent, or someone at a co-working space. There is no single location that feels like the right answer 100% of the time. But this isn't just a nomad problem. It reveals something universal. We all use place as a shorthand for identity. Your city becomes part of your story. Your routines become part of your personality. When that disappears, you discover what remains when the labels fall away. When I first started traveling, I introduced myself as a freelance writer from Michigan. It was simple and grounding. Now I say I'm an editor, but I'm trying to separate who I am from what I do. The parts of my identity that feel solid are tied to values, like curiosity, freedom, and adaptability. The parts that feel fluid are the ones related to career direction and location. This isn't just a travel insight. It's for anyone whose identity feels tied to their job or location. When either changes, there can often be an uncomfortable gap, but that gap can also be an opening, a chance to choose, not just inherit, who you want to be. At this point, I adapt culturally almost without thinking. Clothing, greetings, mealtimes. Even my vocabulary has shifted over the years of communicating with many non-native English speakers. It reminds me how much our environments shape us. Interestingly, I've never felt more or less myself because I don't have a home. And that has taught me something important. Identity is less about geography and more about rhythm. Not where you are, but how you move through your life. When Kevin and I met, we were both already committed to this lifestyle long term. Not temporarily, not as an experiment, as our way of living. I've also found that I'm not really homesick for places anymore, but I do miss people. That shift revealed something. Home is usually less about the walls and more about relationships. For anyone who has moved to cities, the ache you feel is less often for streets and more often for faces. Friendships require intention. You can't rely on spontaneity alone. You have to create connection on purpose. That taught me that closeness is not a function of distance, it's a function of attention. Most people anchor memories to specific locations, but I've been through too many for that to work on its own. I typically remember by region and who I was with. Some memories stay sharp, like my 2 trips to Mauritania. Others blur together, especially the fast ones, like multiple fast trips to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Fast movement blurs not just travel, but life itself. Anyone can experience that. Busy seasons, rapid change, too many commitments. When you move too fast, the mind has trouble distinguishing one moment from the next. For years, I've wished that I had kept a journal all this time. That regret made me realize how much we assume our minds will hold on to experiences. But memory isn't guaranteed. It's shaped by pace, presence, and attention. Now, Kevin and I try to travel in these regional chapters. This continuity has taught me that humans need anchors. For some people, that's a neighborhood. For me, it's a region for a season. I don't believe that not having a home base is damaging, but moving too fast is. Constant decision making is. Never resting is. Decision fatigue might be the hardest part of this lifestyle. Even simple things like where to do laundry become recurring questions that take up too much brain space. It has made me appreciate how much energy routines can save. In West Africa in 2024, constant movement and power outages made everything harder. In Italy in 2025, it was the social pace. Too many people, too much coordination, too little quiet. These experiences taught me that psychological strain is less about geography and more about capacity. My engineering mind helps a lot with logistics, but it also makes me want to optimize everything. Sometimes I save money, but I lose rest. Many people do this, even outside of traveling. Efficiency is not the same as peace. In the first 2 years, I thought full-time travel was temporary for me, then possible, then sustainable. By 2019, I knew it was my path. Many big life changes happen gradually like this. Belief comes in layers. Confidence builds through proof. There are many different types of nomads. Warm weather chasers, routine repeaters, novelty seekers, work-focused travelers. That variety reminds me that labels rarely explain a life fully. What I would tell my year one self: slow down. Fast movement blurs meaning. Start a journal. Memory deserves support. Do not over-optimize everything. Ease is more valuable than efficiency, at least sometimes. If you want something enough, you'll find a way to make it work. These lessons aren't just for nomads. Anyone who is rushing, overwhelmed, or unanchored can find something here. After 11 years of living nowhere, I've learned that it isn't emptiness. It's a different structure for a life. The hard parts are real: decision fatigue, restlessness, constant recalibration. But the freedom is real too. The ability to shape your world intentionally. Maybe that's the real story here. You don't need to be a nomad to question your pace or your anchors. You simply need to notice what feels heavy and what feels true. I wouldn't trade this life. Not now, not after all these years. Wherever you live, or don't, I hope this has given you something to reflect on. If this brought anything up for you, I'd love to know what home means in your life right now. Thank you for listening to my story, and I'll see you in the next one.